Welcome to Ridgecrest Talk. I'm your host, Tonia Pyle, and my guest is Linda Paine from Elections Integrity Project. Actually, I should say founder and president of Election Integrity Project. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, well, you talked with us before, and I wanted to ask you more about the analysis that was done. What brought you to the point of having to do an analysis? What was the objective? It's such a wonderful work. So start out by explaining what led you to that, to doing an analysis
Okay.
on our election system, right?
Right.
Okay.
We learning or coming to the understanding that in 2010, when we all went to observe the polls and saw things that concerned us, we didn't know, are they breaking the law? Are they not? Is there, what governs this? And we right away thought, oh my gosh, everyone's in cahoots. So by understanding the law, we start out by learning the law and observing and getting out in the polls in 2012. We realized that people aren't in cahoots. We have wonderful people in the polls working hard to handle a very full day with our elections. Right. But the problem was indeed lack of poll worker training. Mm-hmm. And they were being trained in where to put things and how to, basically what time to be there, but they weren't trained in the law behind. So after the 2012 elections, both the primary and general, we put together a large report on the 2012 elections, and as compared to the Secretary of State, who sent out, I think it was 8 people who went to observe 9 counties and came back saying, there's no problems here. We were flabbergasted.
Because it wasn't your experience.
Because we said, well, we sent out about 2,000 people in 21 counties, and we're saying you've got a systemic problem. It's in every county. Not LA because it's huge, every county. So we pulled all of the information together. We then looked into federal law, and we learned there are 2 federal laws, the Help America Vote Act, passed in 2002, and the National Voter Registration Act, passed in the 60s. And we learned the Help America Vote Act requires every state to have a compliant and top-down centralized voter database, which means when you register to vote in your county, LA or whatever county it is, it automatically shows up in the statewide database. And by doing that, the statewide database will catch if you're registering to vote in more than 1 counties, mm-hmm. or if you're registered multiple times, or if you're trying to register for a deceased person. But we do not have that. We are the only state in the union that does not have that.
Doesn't have that, and it's the HAVA. You called it HAVA. That's short for the Help America Vote Act.
Correct.
And that didn't get implemented here.
Correct. We have received a waiver of sorts called a Memorandum of Agreement, and pretty much we've just been giving lots and lots of time to get it done, and it just never gets done.
But is that a federal issue?
Federal issue.
It's a federal law,
it's
right?
It's a federal law, right.
That California has not met the standard.
Because the Department of Justice has given California a waiver to try to get it done. Now, what does that mean? It means that we function with a bottom-up system, meaning every county must clean up their own voter rolls and send a report to Sacramento to build the statewide database. If they don't do a good job, then the statewide database is not accurate.
It's a mess.
The problem, too, is the counties can only do their own counties. They don't have the tools, really, to do cross-county checking unless they're working with a neighboring county. Mm-hmm. So we decided, well, we better figure out what's happening to the voter rolls. And we began purchasing voter rolls county by county.
That's interesting. You can purchase those.
You have to qualify.
Okay.
And so we do qualify.
Uh-huh.
We run the data on our own personal server. It doesn't go in the clouds. We protect it. We have analysts and programmers who volunteer their time. We are 100% volunteer, including me. I've never taken a dime in salary.
Wow.
So we have worked for 4 years at looking at every aspect of our election process. In researching the data, we learned that we are in serious trouble because we have hundreds of thousands of duplicated voter registrations on the voter rolls. We have deceased that are re-registered at times and voted for. just numerous problems, and we put those in a report. 2013, we created a statewide report called The Doors Are Wide Open to Corruption, and that report is on our website. Our biggest concern was LA County. We learned that there were 60,000 anomalies in LA County alone.
Oh.
And
Well, that can change an outcome.
Absolutely. So what we have done and found that many of the counties in the state were very positive when we would provide the reports to them. We run their data and we provide that report to them to show them, here's what we're finding. And we found many counties then said, well, can you tell us how you're running those reports? Because we're not finding these. So we share with them, we'll look at these possible categories, look for names, first name, last name, first name, birthday, first name, address, all these variations. And in that way you find where the duplications are. We've turned over names to the DA of people who are creating the duplicates. And the way we find them is every application has an affidavit number. So when we see, here's a sequence of 50 new applications. And of the 50 new applications, look at all these duplicated registrations. Those names we turn over to the registrar and we say we believe that this is worthy of looking into, and then it's up to the registrar to turn those names over to the DA or check them out themselves. We found many counties are spending about 12% of their budget mailing materials to people who don't exist because they're duplicates. So we learned that with our reports we have a tremendous problem that has come about because of non-compliance with the Help America Vote Act. Right now, California is in the process of trying to become compliant. They're putting in place their new system, and we're hoping that it's going to work, and that there won't be flaws.
And this comes from the Secretary of State.
It's the job of the Secretary of State to
Okay.
put together that statewide database that is compliant.
Help America Vote Act.
Right.
Finally going to possibly meet it by the next 2016 election.
We hope so, right.
Interesting.
So they're testing it out, and like all major data projects, there are challenges and issues. So we'll continue to observe and run the data and verify it, but we're hopeful.
Okay, well, we're getting ready to take a quick break, and we'll be right back and talk more about your amazing foundation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Ridgecrest Talk with Election Integrity Project founder and president Linda Paine. And you were talking about the analysis work that was done, and then you were talking about some of the fraud and the issues with not having met the federal requirement for the Help America Vote Act. But when you were talking about the fraud, it brought to my remembrance reading an article when I was back in Indiana. This was several years in 2012. They had just convicted five, these happened to have been election poll workers who were convicted of fraud, and the numbers were very substantial of the fraud involved, and this had to do with the primary. And they said in the article said that had Hillary, actually the judge had said in the article that had Hillary Clinton challenged it, President or Barack Obama would have never won the primary, so he would have never even been a candidate for that. It would have been Hillary Clinton. And so it's very much an important issue to everyone that we feel confident in our system. We value our vote. So now I want you to have an opportunity to sort of sum up about your analysis, because that was such a wonderful work. but I want to get to the hearing you had. And so let's sort of sum up the analysis that was done. Doors wide open.
Doors wide open. We provided that analysis to an election law attorney, a federal election law attorney, and felt that we had enough evidence to take forward to launch a case against the Secretary of State's office. This is not even just the Deborah Bowen, but the office itself has been part of an ongoing problem. So, but the challenge is to do that was a $2 million price tag. And we couldn't get attorneys to take the case because basically the Federal Department of Justice would be the one presiding over the case, and they were the one giving California the waiver. So they said there's really no point. So
seemed like a conflict of interest.
Yeah. So we really didn't see going through court cases as a solution towards solving the problem. What happened instead is we ended up being invited to provide our analysis to the California Advisory Committee for the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. And they were looking into issues in California as to are there any issues causing the citizens' rights to be violated. And Nancy Eisenhart was invited to do that. She actually was one of the founders of Guard My Vote. That was an effort to put voter ID on the ballot. And through networking with the Election Integrity Project and people across the state getting signatures, she ended up meeting someone who referred her to sit on the California Advisory Committee for the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. Well, having been trained by EIP in 2012 to observe the polls and seeing for herself the problems, and then trying to get the initiative on the ballot, and that did fail, but she was very aware of our work. So she accepted the position, and for a year, she presented information and documentation about what's happening to California's election process and how it is in fact disenfranchising all voters, and the consequence is that we are having lower and lower voter turnout. And we've heard that. I travel all over the state and I hear it in every single county. Why bother? My vote doesn't matter. I hear it from both parties.
I hear it
People
too.
do not trust the system, and that's not partisan.
Right.
They go to the polls, they see there's a problem. Over almost 5 years, we've trained citizens in what the election laws are. So when citizens go to the poll, say with a vote-by-mail ballot, they surrender it to their own poll and say, I want to get a regular ballot, and that precinct worker doesn't know that they have to give them a regular ballot and resists and says, no, I'm only going to give you a provisional ballot. See, that says to the citizen, I know the laws, why don't you? And that again goes to poor poll worker training.
Right.
They don't know the law behind what they're doing. So the committee decided after a year that reviewing documentation and even additional Pew Research and other information that we do indeed have a problem, and it certainly does look like citizens are being disenfranchised. And so they had an open hearing, a public hearing on August 28th. And Election Integrity Project provided a tremendous amount of the documented research. We had mountains of information from counties across the state. We had citizens come and testify themselves as to their observations from city council races to county races to statewide races. We had a gentleman come all the way down from Trinity County, 1,500 miles, to testify on what's happening in Trinity County.
Wonderful.
So the power of that testimony resulted in the regional manager for the western states giving us an additional 4 weeks to provide additional evidence of what we had. And so we did. We provided him with everything. So they are now looking at the amount of evidence that is there. And it was very damning. It was very damning for the Secretary of State. It was very damning for LA County. And it was damning for the issues across the state, in that our registrars are not getting the help they need. They're not getting funding they need because we're not in compliance with federal law. we're in trouble not because everyone is a bad guy and a criminal.
Right.
We're in trouble because we're not in compliance with law. When the laws are not followed at the state level or the federal level, every citizen is at risk
Helter
for being
skelter.
exactly disenfranchisement. So the good news is, I must say, as a result of the hearing, we now have a better relationship with LA County's registrar, which is, LA County is larger than the 8th largest state in the union. LA County is 1/3 of all the votes in California. So when LA County is a mess, the whole state is a mess, and it impacts the presidential elections. So we're very pleased to be, it looks like, starting a new phase of work with LA County. What we do is we research, we document, and we provide that information. So we hope to see a change by 2016.
Okay. Well, we'll be right back after this brief moment.
Okay.
Integrity Project, and I wanted to ask you, and some of the information you provided me was this AB 61. I said it was like reading a code book or something like that. It's not something that you are really compelled to read, unless, of course, this is such a compelling matter, so you have to go through this. But tell us what AB 1461 is.
Okay, AB 1461 is an assembly bill that was just passed and signed by the governor this year. It's the new motor voter. The regular motor voter law is a federal law that requires the DMV to provide a voter application with every application to get a driver's license. They go hand in hand. So there is real concern because in states like California, non-citizens, legal or not legal, who are registering for a driver's license are being given a voter application. This bill, the new motor voter, says they are trying to make it easier for citizens to register to vote. They think the low voter turnout is because people aren't registering to vote. Our concern is this. On 10/4, there were amendments that were added to the AB 1461.
When you say on 10/4, are you talking October 4th?
October 4th, just
Okay.
before it was given to the governor. There were amendments that were added to the bill. And bottom line, here's what has happened. The Department of Motor Vehicles of California has said, we do not have the ability to identify non-citizens in the data. Now, the actual physical license, they're supposed to be putting something on there that distinguishes a license for a non-citizen and a license for a citizen. But the data, which is information like on a spreadsheet, they are not able to provide identifiers there. So when they give that data to a county registrar, the county registrars don't know if the voter application is from a citizen or a non-citizen. So AB 1461 first said, well, the DMV is going to make sure that non-citizens don't get registered to vote. When the DMV said, we do not want that responsibility, basically, these are my words, we don't have the ability to do that. The Secretary of State said, okay, I will take full responsibility to determine if it's legitimate. Now, here's the problem. The way that it's set up is it's a two-sided page. So the front side of the page is the application to register to vote, and on the back side are what are called attestations, meaning are you a U.S. citizen?
I'm a
Yes.
U.S. citizen.
Do you want to register to vote? No, I don't. Instead of having an opt-in where citizens must go and say, I'm opting in, I want to register to vote, AB 1461 has changed it to an opt-out. So you're going to automatically be registered to vote unless you turn that page over and say, no, I don't want to register to vote. Our concern is non-citizens getting a driver's license can and already are being manipulated by someone being able to say, just fill out the front page, sign, and give it back. If they don't know to turn it over and say, yes, I want to vote, attest.
And how are they going to know?
How are they going to know?
How would anybody know?
Exactly. We have approximately 6 million non-citizens in California. We have between 3 and 5 million who qualify to get a driver's license. So our concern is how many non-citizens now will be opted in to register to vote. The Secretary of State says that they're going to see, well, they've got a signature, so we're just going to trust that they turned it over and they wanted to vote. Mr. Padilla has been challenged on this, and he has said, well, no, we're actually going to check the names against other databases for non-citizens. And I would like Mr. Padilla to show us those databases, because we do not believe they exist. With people coming over the border without being processed, with ICE being told to stand down, with sanctuary cities being established all over the state, we question what databases is he going to use.
Right.
There are none. So we think this is smoke and mirrors. And in effect, this one bill will change the form of government that we have in California. The United States was established as a republic, not a democracy, as a republic, which is governed by the consent of the people, the citizens. A democracy is a majority rules kind of system, 50 plus 1. With this one bill, they have turned our form of government from a republic to some kind of democracy, with non-citizens determining who will govern, what laws will be enacted, and that is unconstitutional. We are asking citizens across the state to form together with us in a statewide coalition of citizens to stop this bill, repeal it, file legal action on constitutional basis. We don't know, but citizens across the state are exploring what can be done. It is an unconstitutional move, and the citizens of California must stand together regardless of party affiliation and say, we did not consent to this legislative body and the governor and the Secretary of State to change our form of government.
Well, who do we go to with that?
The Election Integrity Project will start a section on our page where people can start to network. Right now, it's in the very beginning. We are reaching out to citizen organizations across the state. We're reaching out to constitutional law attorneys. We're reaching out to the legislators. Many legislators signed that bill before those amendments were put in. We're reaching out, Democrats and Republicans alike, and saying, join with us. This is unconstitutional, and we question whether it makes the legitimacy of our legislative body trusted or even valued. They do not have the authority to change our form of government. So see, when you start to mess around with elections, you start with creating chaos, you start with manipulating elections. We'd like there to be an audit of Alex Padilla's race. Pete Peterson ran against Mr. Padilla and lost by 400,000 votes. 350,000 of them came from LA County. Now we know LA County is a mess.
Didn't they have to raise that at the time if there was a question? Didn't he have to raise that at the time?
They do, and the problem is it's never done or rarely done because it's so expensive.
Right.
And so candidates, and this is what
they have to pay for it themselves, or the elections?
The candidate or the party has to pay for it, and it can be hundreds of thousands more. That
should be the elections committees who pay for that. But how do people contact you? Because we're getting down to the end here.
Okay. They can go to our website, electionintegrityproject.com.
No S on the end. Electionintegrityproject.com.
And they can contact us through the website. We're building teams across we're reigniting our existing teams, building teams in every county where we didn't have one before. We're asking citizens to join with us in ensuring the 2016 elections are fair and honest, and that the laws are being implemented in our polls.
Thank you so much, Linda, for joining us.
You're welcome.